Hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of Psychology of Money. This week, we're going to discuss saving money and we're going to discuss borrowing money, something that we have to all do all the time. And so we're going to think about retirement planning and mortgages and student loans and all those kinds of things this week. And as we think about saving money and borrowing money, both of these are tasks that are complex. So let's start with the saving part of the equation. So we should always save money for emergencies. So that's important for day to day because emergencies are inevitable. But a big task that everyone has to think about is saving for retirement. And the reason this is so difficult is that retirement is so far off in time that we have difficulty thinking about what we're going to be doing decades from now as we think about our retirement goals. And we have so many immediate needs that those take precedence over things that seem to be so very far away in time. And in fact, we have a hard time in envisioning ourselves older, quite a bit older. So if you're in your 20s, thinking about what you're going to be like as a person when you're in your 60s is just incomprehensible. So it's not surprising that we are challenged to think about retirement. But retirement is a complex thing. We have to think about what we are going to need in retirement, how much money we're going to need, how much should you be saving every year to meet your goals in retirement, if you even know what those goals are. You want to make sure you don't run out of money in retirement, which is something that is happening all the time. And so we really want to make sure that once people are older, that they are comfortable and not worried about money. And this is a new task. So if you lived a couple of 100 years ago, you didn't worry about this. Now people live longer. We have rising life expectancy. So people never used to live as long past working age. So this was never an issue. Another thing that is different now than it was maybe a couple 100 years ago is that families are geographically dispersed. And so historically, in all of the history of humans, older family members would have been taken care of by younger family members. So, the issue of having enough money to pay for healthcare or help around the house or making sure you have enough money was never really a consideration. But now that people are more dispersed and you don't have immediate children living in the same household to look after you if you get old and you have health issues, suddenly we have this new problem that never existed before. And then add in a third thing, and that's the decline in pension plans. In the past, you would work for one company, maybe for your entire career, and the one company would have a pension plan so that once you retired from your one company, the pension was there for you for the rest of your retirement. You would get a certain defined amount of money, a defined benefit every single month from that pension. And so that made for a very comfortable retirement. Now, it's not that pension plans completely don't exist anymore. There are still teacher pension plans for police officers and that sort of thing. But oftentimes those pension plans provide a certain percentage of income that is not maybe the full amount that you received when you were working. And so you still should be saving some extra money so that you maintain your standard of living even when you have that pension. And the other consideration is that the world of work has completely changed so that we do not have individuals working for the same company anymore. Pension plans are very expensive for companies. And so companies have just got rid of them. And so most places don't offer a pension plan anymore, which places the burden of retirement planning on the individual. So now we have alternatives where you can set aside money every month, in many cases tax deferred, into a 401k plan. If your company is in the public sector, you work for education or something like that, you might have a 457 plan, a 403b plan. All of these plans allow you to put aside some of the money that you make in a month into an account. You don't pay taxes on it today, but when you retire, then you can take that money out. It's hopefully grown and been invested carefully so that it's worth a lot more when you retire, and then you can take that money. It will be taxed at that time, but then you have set aside enough money to fund your retirement. But it makes it essential that people understand how these investing plans work. And that's asking a lot of people. And this is where psychology can come into play. You know, first of all, we know that people find thinking about yourself in the future, decades later, is a difficult process. Picking what investments you want in these plans is a difficult process. So there are a lot of ways that nudges and other sorts of things can help make some of these challenges easier. Another thing to consider too is that we are very present biased as humans. And I think I mentioned this before, that we can't envision ourselves decades from now. We don't even know who we're going to be or where we're going to be living or what our families are going to look like. It's really difficult to think about that. And we also tend to suffer from self-control problems. That's just inherent in being human. And so there's this inherent problem of trying to help people save for retirement, overcome these basic tendencies that humans are going to have self-control problems. They're going to be present biased. You know, how can we help people to be better prepared for something that is going to happen decades from now? But if they don't plan appropriately today, they will be very uncomfortable decades from now if they don't have enough money. And then, you know, humans feel ill-equipped to understand retirement planning and generally dislike talking about money. You know, if you want to really get a sense about that, ask somebody about what they're invested in their retirement plans. A lot of people will really feel hesitant to start those conversations. Not everybody, but asking people about money is just really, people feel it's intrusive. And so if we don't talk about it, we're not prepared for these really important decisions. And so it's difficult for you to get information. It's difficult for you to make good decisions. And you know, and lots of times people also have this bias, like they don't understand finances. And so, for example, I have a slide here that shows that women are less prepared for retirement than men, but women live longer than men. Their life expectancy is longer. So if any age, any demographic group should be preparing for retirement, women should be out preparing men for retirement because of the life expectancy issue, but they don't feel confident about finances. And it's not that complicated. You don't have to be a math wizard to understand this stuff, but the first thing that you need to think about is just getting started and starting to understand what do you need to do, how do you need to prepare, how do you understand the plan that you're getting through work, all kinds of things like that. And this is where nudges can be really helpful. We know that 1 in 3 Americans have nothing saved for retirement. So already, and if we could do anything to help people to get out of that no retirement savings bucket and move them into having some, that would be a good start. You know, we have Social Security, but that's not nearly enough money to live off of in retirement. So we need to get people enrolled in retirement plans, encourage them to enroll and contribute enough, and help them to increase their contribution rates and improve their investment returns, helping them understand what they're investing in, trying to avoid high fees, making sure that, you know, companies who have retirement plans are not offering high fee funds, because there's no reason to pay a lot of high fees when there's alternatives that have low fees. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an overview of where we're going with this idea of understanding saving. And saving is definitely a big, important part of understanding how people interact with money and the psychology of it. But saving's important, but also we end up borrowing a lot of money for a lot of different things. For many students in my class, you needed to borrow money to go to school. You have a student loan of some kind, maybe several. When you buy a home, there's usually no way that someone can purchase a home outright. They need to mortgage, get a mortgage for that home so that they can pay for that home over maybe, say, 30 years. Most people have credit cards. It's pretty hard to actually function in society if you don't have a credit card to book a hotel room or book a flight or pay for your drink at Starbucks, any of those sorts of things. You need a credit card in many cases. You can use a debit card in some situations, but credit cards are something that a lot of people use every single day, can also help get people into a lot of trouble when they don't understand credit cards. And then a lot of times when you're buying a car or a truck or something like that, you need a loan to purchase that vehicle. And so again, nudges can be helpful. Mortgages are very complicated and confusing. And so nudges can be helpful in helping people choose a good mortgage with a low interest rate. Whereas credit cards, you can think about helping people to be better at using credit cards and not getting themselves into all kinds of trouble with credit cards because of the high interest rates. And this figure shows where people have a lot of debt. And you can see that when you're in a young adult age range, that's where you start to accumulate debt. A lot of times you have debt from student loans, and then you purchase a home. And then between ages 35 and then, into the mid 50s, that's where like the debt will peak for a typical individual. And then as you're able to pay down your mortgage on your home, pay down the student loans, pay down the loans for other things like vehicles and things like that, then debt will decline. And the goal, of course, going back to the beginning of this lecture, is that ideally you don't want to go into retirement with any debt. You want to get rid of the debt on the home, get rid of the student loan debt, all those kinds of things. And one of the recurring themes that you'll see a lot in the news lately is the fact that students, when they graduate from college, they have so much student loan debt that they feel like they can't move on with their lives and can't purchase a home because they just have already so much debt with their student loan debt that they can't even afford mortgage loan debt. And so, that delays the ability of them to purchase a home and establish themselves. And, eventually, if you pay off that home, you have equity in that home, you've got an asset that you can tap into. And so, again, nudges can be useful in all of these different contexts to help people make better decisions. So in this chapter, you'll see all about the different areas of finance. And if there's one thing I would say, if you're interested in this topic and you see how the psychology overlays with all of these different things, consider a career in the financial services industry, because the one thing you will see over and over again is that understanding how people think, understanding how people make decisions, and understanding people's emotions is really critical in helping them be good stewards of their money. And so whether that's a career in investment banking or asset management, commercial banking, corporate finance, all risk management, all of those different areas, a background in psychology is a great way to move into that area, because at the end of the day, people are humans. And so they are challenged by this area, and they would really appreciate someone who explains, the various options to them in a way that makes sense from a human perspective. And so that's where psychology can be extremely beneficial as a background to going into any area of the financial services industry.